My name is Melissa Hanson, and I left the Kingston polygamous cult. My childhood was pretty stressful. I had my mom and my dad, and then there were 11 siblings altogether. My mom and my dad weren't polygamous. My dad didn't have more than one wife, so my childhood in the cult, kind of felt a little bullied, picked on, and like we weren't good enough. I felt guilty because my dad only had one wife, like we were less than other people. We knew that we weren't as good as other people because we weren't blood related to the Kingstons, for sure. I graduated from high school in the 11th grade, so I graduated a year early from high school. I feel like I was pushed to go to school by my mom because she was not raised in the Kingston cult. So she graduated high school and she knew how important an education was, not being raised in the cult. I was married in the group to my kid's father. I was 18 years old when I got married. I was the first wife and the only wife while he was married to me. I had my 4 kids, which was also hard. I had fertility issues, and I always wanted to be a mom, and when I had my kids and started raising them, I knew I wanted more for them. I didn't want to be a polygamist. I didn't want to be forced into that lifestyle, and I didn't want my kids to have to live in the fear that I grew up with. I worried in about a lot of things with my kids, kind of the pressure that was put on me and my husband at the time to live polygamy and the pressure put on me when I had the infertility issues and just a lot of pressure from everything all around us and saving money and things that we bought and how I wasn't allowed to buy a house, but my ex-husband was helping his sister buy a house. And so there's a lot of compounding issues that put fear and wanted me to save my children. Yeah, I found out I had fertility issues because I got married when I was 18, but I didn't have my first kid till I was 22. Um, I went to the doctor and they had me like keep track of my temperature and all those things and realized that I had PCOS. And so once we figured out what I had and went on the correct diet versus everything everybody else is telling me to do in the cults, then within 6 months I was pregnant. No, my ex-husband did not support me going to the doctor. That was more of my mom too. My mom took us to the doctor, like all of her kids were vaccinated, but my kids weren't vaccinated when they were younger till I left the cult. But it was more of my mom pushing and my dad encouraging my ex to let me do what I needed to where we finally were able to figure out what was going on. I'm not sure why he didn't want me to go to the doctor, because in my family, it was a normal thing, but from what I hear from other people, it's kind of a control and a way, like, that they'll figure out what's wrong and then tell you what's wrong, and so they had this idea and it worked, and so you look up to them more. Like, that's kinda something I noticed, like, after leaving that husbands do. So it was more of, I've told you to do this diet. You need to take garlic. You have to do like enemas and stuff that I didn't want to do. And like the garlic or what is the kerosene down your nose? Colon oil. It was kerosene and olive oil mixed together, and they like put that down your nose when you were sick and things like that. And, like there was somebody always constantly getting sick, and then God gave them this revelation to make the colon oil, and then like you put it down your nose, and it was the only thing that ever made them better. But no, like everything, like taking garlic, chewing garlic. There was one time I had a miscarriage and the baby wouldn't come out. And so Wendell and my ex-husband had me do, I could only have carrots until it came out. So like my skin, everything was orange. And then like after a week it worked, but that's what they said I needed to do to clean out my body. Some of the final straws of why I left was because my ex-husband, Daniel, got put over his family because Wendell was so old and wasn't able to, like, really mentally be there, so Daniel got put in charge of the family, and Daniel was encouraging my ex and pushing him to get a second wife, and part of that came to pursuing 12 and 13-year-old girls, and Daniel said that the reason was why they had to start that young is by the time that they were 18, they would know that that's who they're supposed to marry, so grooming. That was one of the last straws of why I left. Oh, my kids weren't even that old yet, but yeah, the age of my sisters and my nieces. Like, there was once we were on a trip in Hawaii with one of his brothers and his brother's wife and her 2 sisters, and while we were on that trip, I guess he was sending emails to one of my nieces, like, saying that he wished that she was there even though she was 12 instead of these girls who were 16 and 17, because my niece was so much more mature. When we got back, my sister's husband, like, yelled at him and got after him for it. But, yeah, I didn't find out about it until after we got back and my sister told me. I attempted to leave a couple of times, even once went to one of my sister's houses and said I wasn't going back to his house, and he drove to my sister's house and took me back home, and I realized that I wouldn't be able to leave by telling, and so I did reach out to Holding Out Help, and they helped me leave. They helped me physically get my kids and leave from my mom's house. Yeah, they gave me a safe house to stay in, for a few months, as long as I needed. I was the first person that they helped that had a high school diploma, but they helped me, make sure that I was set up and that if I wanted to go to college, I had the resources to continue that. They got me set up with a therapist, and, but it just took me a couple of months to find a job because of the education I already had. I don't think I could have done it as fast on my own without their help, but it was also nice knowing having somebody on your side because that's always the fear a fear of the unknown, and immediately there were people showing up that they cared, and that helped relieve a lot of the scaredness that comes with that first immediate leaving. At first, I didn't have any family support. After a few months, after I got everything going in court and things like that, I wanted to get that process going before I did reach out to my family because I didn't want them, like, hiding me or grabbing me and forcing me to stay, that I wanted those things going in place before I did talk to them. And then a couple months after, I sat down and told my family what happened, and my mom, being from where she came from, she was married before the order, and she was in an abusive relationship, and so she could see that I was telling the truth and did support me on not going back to him. Then my mom always told us, "If you wanna leave the order, but don't cause issues," and that's the way one of my older sisters that's left. She says the same thing to me, but I don't think she understands. She wasn't ever married in the order. She didn't have to deal with having kids with somebody in the order, and so at first I didn't say anything, but my ex wouldn't leave me alone. So I was like, if I can't just leave and leave it alone, if he can't, then why should I? Why shouldn't I stand up? And then I saw my kids starting to be groomed, and they told me. And so my kids recognized what was going on because I had already started educating them about those things to watch for because I did choose to have kids with him. He's still their dad, and I did want them to respect him. I just didn't want them to be a part of the cult. And so when one of my kids turned 13, then they were starting to go to parties, even though their younger sister was just a year younger and she wasn't allowed to go. And so they started catching on to what was going on. And so that's part of why I started speaking out and starting to, like, help change the laws and things because I didn't want them to be secretly married or anything to somebody when at the time, one of the bills I helped change was Ramirez changed the marriage age. So the 16 and 17-year-olds can't get married without basically a judge deciding versus a parent signing. When I left was around the time that some other women with kids also left, but they didn't take their kids with them. And I saw what they did, and they thought, "I'll go back after and I'll fight for him." And that doesn't look good in the courts. You, like, abandon your kids. So I, like, saw that and I watched that, and I was absolutely not going to leave without my kids. So my youngest was 9 months old, so I had 4 kids under the age of 4. They were 4, 2, 1, and 9 months. Like, so I had, some really small kids, and so I knew I couldn't do it alone. So I just tell people to, like, reach out. There is holding out help. There's others of us that have left the cult. Like, send me a message. Send me a message, send anybody a message, and they will keep it quiet and they'll do what they can. And if you can't, I don't think anybody can do it on their own. I think you need to know that it does take a village, and there is a village out here waiting to help. And we are all willing to help however we can. And that if you have kids, take them with you and just get going on the process of however it's going to be. I had a doctor once tell me that a good doctor will try to find the solution always. A great doctor will tell you when they don't know the answer and send you to somebody who does. So I always like to think that, okay, I don't know it. I can't find it, but let's find somebody that can teach us what's right. Well, when I left, I did want to, continue my education. As that saying, knowledge is power, and it definitely is. The more that you get an education, the more that I felt confident that I was doing the right thing. Because I think at first there was always those times of doubt, like, did I do the right thing? Like, I just left everything I knew for something unknown, and I started, like, learning more, took some community college classes. I was working at the daycare, so I did more child education classes, and so the more that I got educated, the more I knew I was doing what was right, and I if I don't keep learning something new, I get bored. So I always just want to be a person that's always learning, always exploring, and always thinking. And so that's just still a goal that I have is to just keep going, keep learning more. Success to me means just continuing to grow and to be a good person, to just be there for other people when they need it, help when you can, and also acknowledge when you can't help. There are so many times we do need to step back and take care of ourselves, especially givers that give all the time. I feel like I'm that way and have had to learn to take time for myself, but just to continue taking care of my family and just to keep growing. Yeah, a really important achievement to me was buying my house. I left in 2012, and then in 2022, I was able to purchase my home for me and my kids to have our own independence. We don't have to pay rent. It's ours. We can do whatever we want here, and I feel like everybody feels at home here. Everybody comes here. All their friends come here. This is where everybody's friends like to hang out. So, yeah, buying my home in 2022 was a really important achievement to me. Oh, like, living down at the mine, that first trailer I lived in, like, Lorna and Beth had lived there, like, years before, and then I had to live there. It was so run down, and then we had to go move in the bathhouse. It was also, like, used as the, what do you call it? The Sunday school rooms at the mine. You had the big room and then the apartment, and some of those rooms were where the Sunday school rooms went. So I wasn't allowed to have the whole thing. And then we had to move down to Huntington to the trailer court. And then, and that was like I had just found out I was pregnant and this place needed cleaned and everything. And so, like, I basically had to do everything myself when I had just finally gotten pregnant with my first kid. And then had to move into the other house because it needed to have the caretaker's house. And then had to move into this other house next to it because it was for sale and they wanted to start taking over the block. Like, even, like, moving out of the bathhouse, like, I had just found out I was pregnant. Like, this is what we had been trying for years, and then we had a week to move out, and I had to do it. Me and Tony, me and my fiancé have a duo called Moonlight Girl and the Drunken Squirrel. So our next show is coming up in April, but if anybody wants to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, we're like a folks acoustic duo band. Moonlight Girl and the Drunken Squirrel. Cool. Yeah, we played a couple times. We played at Roosters on B Street, played at the Sidebar. This one is at the Sidebar. It's over at Ogden's Own Distillery. I now am a successful, I work in the financial industry for seller finance real estate. I've been out for, what is it now? 13 years? 13 years. And I'm first and foremost always mom. My kids are still the most important thing to me, and having that be an asset to society has always been a goal for me too, and for them to be good people. And I have an amazing partner who we're getting married this summer. We've been together for almost 6 years. I bought this house in 2022. So I just like to think that I'm somebody that broke down barriers and has become an asset to society that other people hopefully can look up to.